George Floyd was honored in his hometown of Houston, Texas, Monday. The public memorial marks the final service before he is laid to rest. Danya Bacchus reports.
One by one, mourners, including members of law enforcement, filed past George Floyd's casket, paying their respects at a public viewing in Houston.
It was just terrifying for me to see how that officer did this guy.
I'm just so tired of people dying unjustly.
Floyd grew up in the city and later moved to Minneapolis, where he died 2 weeks ago in police custody. Former Vice President Joe Biden and Texas Governor Greg Abbott both met privately with his family and offered their condolences.
I wore this tie on purpose because this is the color of Houston Yates, where George Floyd was a tremendous athlete. So this is in honor of George Floyd and his commitment to athletics here in the Lone Star State.
The viewing here in Houston is the last public event to honor George Floyd, whose death touched off massive protests nationwide against police brutality.
The American public is responding to this murder in a way that validates human life. Everyone has stopped and paused and said, can we make this one the last one?
An invitation-only memorial service and private burial for Floyd will be held in Houston Tuesday.
And Danya Bacchus joins me now. Danya, set the scene for us there. What has the atmosphere been like in Houston since George Floyd's body arrived?
You know, it has been a steady flow of visitors here since his body arrived this morning. We've seen people with shirts, they're holding signs. What's been very surprising, I would say, here is that though this is a somber feeling that you have in this atmosphere, there are also people who are still very angry about George Floyd's death, saying that he did not have to die this way and that they should not be here. And I also want to let you guys know that we are battling temperatures here in Houston with the heat index of more than 100. So people are definitely braving the heat to come here. They feel that important about saying their final goodbyes to George Floyd.
And who are some of the folks who've attended this viewing, and why was it important to make this open to the public?
We have seen Reverend Al Sharpton here, Attorney Benjamin Crump, who's represented some families. He's been here. Trayvon Martin's family's here, Eric Garner's family's here, Ahmaud Arbery, Michael Brown, names that we have heard from the past of black men who have died, some at the hands of law enforcement. We know Trayvon Martin in that situation with George Zimmerman. So those people have come to say their piece, I think, to also stand with the Floyd family in these moments, because they definitely understand that pain. I think having this viewing public gave people a chance to say goodbye. I don't want to say that it gave them some closure, but I think it did possibly give them a little bit of that.
You know, this is such an emotional time, not only for those who actually knew George Floyd, but for those who did not, as you've noted. Have you had the chance to speak with folks there in Houston who came out to pay their respects, and what has stood out to you?
I have been able to speak to them, and again, I think what stands out to me the most is some of the anger and frustration that people are still expressing. I spoke with an older woman. She said she was in her 60s and said this has been going on for a long time. She has experienced this. She's been marching since the 60s against police brutality, against systematic racism, and she is still doing that. And she's hoping that this will spark a change that brings into place reforms, that brings into safe, tough conversations for people to have. So I think it's on both sides, where you have people who are still very angry, but then you have some people who are definitely hopeful and optimistic that his death is sparking change.
So former Vice President Joe Biden recorded a video message for the funeral on Tuesday. How significant is that?
Well, former Vice President Biden said he did not want to disrupt the family service that's going to be held tomorrow, that private memorial service with his extra security measures with the Secret Service detail. I do think that it's very important that he did have this one-on-one meeting with the Floyd family. We also know that Texas Governor Greg Abbott did the same thing. So we are seeing a lot of dignitaries and celebrities who are coming out to support and standing with the Floyd family at this time. And again, having these tough conversations about what they they can do to help be a part of this movement.
And finally, Danya, is it clear from the people that you've been speaking with what their next steps should be? Do they know specifically after he is laid to rest what it is that they plan on doing to try to continue this fight?
I do think that people are still in the process of trying to figure out what can be done next. I know a lot of people are calling for defunding police departments. We've heard that. We've heard reforms to police departments, different policies in place. And again, I think having tough conversations around race in this country. What we have seen here also is a very diverse crowd of people who are coming to say goodbye, young and old, of all races and genders. So I think there is a togetherness that people are experiencing at this time too, and maybe even finding comfort in being around people, like-minded people, I would say, and being here and saying goodbye to George Floyd.
All right, Danya Bacchus for us. Danya, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.